Welcome to The Strategic Plan, an audio series exploring 3 areas that are helping to shape bright, grounded, connected, and inspired students well beyond their years at Leo Baeck. We will dig into the topics of social, emotional well-being, and differentiated learning to see what these buzzwords are all about. And we will visit how teaching Jewish identity has adapted to meet changing times. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the show. And now, back to my conversation with Rabbi Noam Katz. So let's talk about the spiritual life and growth aspect of the Leo Baeck Day School and what that means. When schools talk about spiritual growth, what does that mean? And can you give an example of what it means to the Leo Baeck Day School?
Your provocation is interesting because I don't think schools talk much about spiritual growth.
Okay.
Necessarily. I think we do talk, I'm talking about now sort of the broader landscape of schools today are thinking about social and emotional well-being and character development and values development. But I think very few schools are thinking about, or at least using the terminology of spiritual growth. We know that as a Jewish day school, that it's not merely about learning history from textbooks. It's not just trying to master a language in Hebrew that's both ancient and contemporary. We know that Judaism has to be meaningful. It has to resonate, whether you are 5 years old or 55 or 85, because the question I think that will come again and again at various points in one's life is, why be Jewish? Why am I doing this? A lot of why. I'm not the first person to think of, the Jewish book of why, but I do think that I read one scholar who said, today we are all Jews by choice. In a world of infinite choices and activities and priorities, you actually have to make the choice to be and do Jewish, to bring Judaism in some way into your life. And so for me, that actually is the heart of your question about spiritual growth. How do I see my place in the world? How do I define or try to begin to navigate this murky idea of God or the divine or something that's greater than all of us? How do these texts try to teach me the kind of human being I want to be? When I sit here for tefillah, for prayer, with all of my classmates, what possible meaning or guidance is this providing me with? Especially over the few years at the height of the pandemic, when we were only really connecting on Zoom windows and not able to physically be in the same space together in our chapel, for instance, and we couldn't sing with one another, what things were lying dormant that weren't attended to, that create that sense of belonging and sense of soul enrichment? So I think that while it's hard for me to define what spiritual growth is, I know that we're invested in helping our students at all ages to feel like they're spiritually nourished, that they have a chance to explore and examine what God means to them, to examine and explore what it means to be part of a surrounding Jewish community.
How do you go about doing that? How do you give them that space to explore that?
Well, again, I think that tefillah, Jewish worship, gives you blueprints. Here's your Siddur, and we have a beautiful junior and senior Siddur, which again, from grades 1 to 4, our students work with the junior Siddur, and then they graduate in a ceremony to receiving their senior Siddur, which they use from grade 5 to 8. And I really think those are extraordinary texts filled with not just the traditional Hebrew prayers themselves, but alongside the liturgy is commentary. And for the younger ones, it's a lot of commentary through pictures, through artwork, through little question bubbles. In the older one, there's more commentary. There's more opportunity to dig into what is this prayer either teaching me or what is it giving voice to in my soul. So we had a grade 7 class leading a Rosh Chodesh service just this past week. And before they recited the Hebrew prayer for the body, Asher Yatzar, 2 grade 7 students talked deeply about what our physical and mental health, why that's important, what they do to keep their bodies healthy and working to allow them to do all the things that they want to do. And I like to think of the Siddur and all the prayers within it helps to do the same thing for our souls, for our spirits, kind of gives us a good spiritual workout. Sorry, back to your question of like, how do we create moments for spiritual growth? Which, again, I think is hard to do at any age, especially as people get a little older and more rational minded and might say, this doesn't work for me anymore, or I don't believe in this. I always try to start from a place of asking, well, what about it don't you believe? What do you believe? What do you hold to be important? So another moment in our Shabbat services that's really profound is when we sing the prayer for healing, Mishaberach. And that's one moment where no matter what a person's belief in God is, or a person's connection to prayer might be, at that moment of praying for somebody I know who's in need of healing, that can resonate with all of us at any age. And we have a beautiful ritual we've been doing for quite a while now on Rosh Chodesh morning services, where we take out our healing canopy, our Chupat HaRefuah, which was designed some years ago by grade 4 students and their grandparents and special relatives, where they each designed one panel that somehow embodied the idea of healing and strength. And we hold it up and we invite any community members who wish to stand beneath it during the Mishaberach prayer to do so they can really understand what it means to be embraced and surrounded by community on all sides.
That kind of goes into my next question, which is about that spirit of Leo Back, like permeating into the greater community, the families, maybe your local community where you are on, in the heart of Toronto almost. How do you feel about that comment that like there is a spirit of the school that does permeate into the family community and the local community?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many parents and families I've heard who say, my kids go home, especially when they're in kindergarten and grade 1, grade 2, even grade 3, and they're singing the songs and the prayers all the time. And so they're, in some ways, the kids are the drivers with enthusiasm for bringing the songs and the blessings. They're holding their parents accountable for making sure we celebrate Shabbat, that we do the blessings. And so I think it sort of just radiates outwardly, where people see that the kids are building this base of knowledge, this repertoire of music and prayer, and that's sustainable. Again, whether or not they are as excited to sing those songs or prayers when they're in middle school. I always say when kids are middle-aged, that's the hardest. But they are there. Right? It's like, if you ask me something that someone told me when I was in kindergarten, when I was 5 years old, I probably can't recite it word for word. But if you ask me to sing you a song that I learned at that time, I can sing it, very quickly. And I can probably quickly access how it made me feel and who I was with at that moment. And I think those are experiences and memories that keep on sort of showing their worth again and again. And so then students years down the road will come back to visit us, an older sibling, an alumni, now many alumni parents, and they'll come back on a Friday afternoon to watch their child or a grandchild leading Shabbat. And again, time and time again, it not just is giving them a sense of joy, but they're like, we're in good hands. Like, we know that these students, with this kind of joy and with this kind of connection, that this means this will be passed down through generations, and it's not lost.
Right. Well, we, the greater we, the Leo Baeck alumni community, the Leo Baeck current community, I mean, we're very grateful for the work that you do to foster that. It does mean a lot to a lot of the people in the community to see that, Jewish youth are getting this foundation, that they can take it forward and they'll grow up and pass it on to their kids. And it does mean a lot, I think, to the greater Jewish community. So I want to thank you for your work on that with the students at Leo Baeck.
Thank you, Toby.
So thanks for coming on here and talking about the strategic plan that Leo Baeck has in terms of its Jewish identity and Jewish learning. We really appreciate the time. Thank you, Rabbi Katz.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right, take care. Thank you for listening to the Strategic Plan audio series. I encourage you to keep learning about what creates true educational excellence and how a strong Jewish independent school is flourishing right here in Toronto. For more information, visit leobaeck.ca, go to the About drop-down menu, and find all you need to know on the Strategic Plan webpage.